I've been there a time or two.
Yeah, me too. I've explored, but I've never really worked there with anyone there.
Okay.
Hear me at all?
Oh, neat. I actually saw Spatial. Yeah, we can hear you now, Jay. I saw Spatial changed their kind of notifications. I saw that your comment popped up above your character. I don't think I've seen that before. It shows up in the chat, but like popped right up above your avatar there, which was kind of neat. Where am I? Am I like... My character is like hidden in the bushes or something. Where am I?
Hey everybody, Lyndall is a friend of mine from another group that I'm in, and I invited her to come. And Lyndall, can you hear us? Maybe she can't.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. She's from
Yes.
Australia,
Hi,
as you
Lyndall.
can tell by her accent.
Yeah,
Glad you joined us.
Thank you for asking me.
Tristia is trying to get her mic to work. She's getting ready to present something her and Jay worked on.
I might actually have to leave Spatial and come back. I am experiencing some weird glitchiness, so I'm going to refresh. I'll be right back.
Tim.
Oh,
in
yeah.
his group.
I know him.
All right, I think.
Sandwich.
All right, I think I made it back. Whoa, running through the fire there.
Anyone try?
I'm not sure if
We were
it's my
trying Horizon
internet.
Worlds.
I'm sorry, Jay. What was that?
I was just asking who has tried Horizon Worlds so far.
Yeah.
I have.
I have
Me
not.
too. I've been a couple of times, but haven't done much.
Lyndall, Horizon Worlds is something that's on a quest, too.
Okay.
I don't think it's available overseas, is it? Last time I Googled it, it wasn't. But that was like 6 months ago. I think it's only USA.
That's a very good question. You know, I'm not sure about that. But now that I think about it, when I was doing the recording and exploring other worlds, I definitely heard pretty much entirely American English. So that's a good thing to note. Yeah.
I'm not positive if
Yeah.
they've changed that.
I also didn't really hear anyone over the age of 14, so that's also important to note.
Yeah.
I usually go, in Verizon Worlds, I go to places where there isn't other people, because there's some pretty artsy stuff, like worlds that people just create. I don't know if they're artists or, well, surely they are, but they're just beautiful. Kind of like our little metaverse, our ADT little pink thing over there, but that was made by Spatial. This is made by people.
There was a cabin world that really interesting. And they make like really new ones a lot of the times. Every time you join, there's like a new world popping up. It says explore this new place. So the cabin in the woods looked really cool.
To your point, Carrie, it says that it's available in Canada, France, Iceland, Ireland, Spain, United Kingdom, and the United States.
Great. Good. I thought with the new headset, I mean, they had to expand.
Not Australia yet, but we'll see.
Pretty much all the places that speak English, besides Spain. Spain was on there, right?
Good point.
Ireland speaks English. I went there before, so they like more than half the country speaks English. UK speaks English. But yeah, I guess that's probably why a lot of people in the Horizon world speak English.
Yeah, and even nowadays, thanks to Hollywood, uh, most of I think most of Europe, and at least most of Europe under the age of 60 speaks English. Um, but it definitely depends on where you are. Oh, I'm gonna turn that down for myself a little bit. So this is, can you all see my screen okay?
Yeah, can see it.
Yes, perfectly.
All right, I'm gonna hide this guy. And hopefully that, there we go, goes away. Little taskbar. So this is the kind of landing area of, oh, it jumped right into our project. I want to take that back just a little bit. This is the kind of introduction of Horizon Worlds when you first enter. And I just wanted to take a moment. Jay's commented on this before, but I think they did a really nice job with the artwork and, kind of showing that there are different areas and different lands. But it's really neat artwork. I think they put a lot of thought into that. There's a lot of default worlds you can, not default, but user built or meta built worlds you can explore. And I do look at some of them later on, but I wanted to jump right into what the design challenge group was working on. And you'll be able to see that here. So we were working on a project kind of around city heat and I guess rising temperatures from due to climate change and urban the urban heat index that those city dwellers might be familiar with that. Just in general, how cities are so much warmer just because of the amount of heat that that many people and businesses and commerce and activity generates. So what we're doing here in this challenge is snapping different solar panels onto their placement pads on a rooftop here to help generate electricity from that solar energy. And really what I should have done here, and I did not do in this recording actually, so while I play this video out, I might pop into the headset and try to get that set up to share with you guys. But is kind of look at how things are built in Horizon Worlds and what we had to develop. So I did a little bit of a walkthrough here of our world. So in this interaction, we use the shovel to plant these trees, which is just kind of like a trigger interaction. And the way that Horizon Worlds works to build these interactions is really through object-oriented programming. So much like any game engine would works to build out interactions. It's just almost like a visual object-oriented programming. And so this is the end of the challenge. It's not really so much a challenge as just a little bit of a learning moment. And it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot. It's not a very long prototype. So the whole purpose of this was really just to build a prototype and get these interactions working and see what are the capabilities of Horizon Worlds. And I'm exploring the world a little bit here, just looking around. But it's really to explore those capabilities, and I dare say that we barely scratched the surface of what's possible in a tool like this, and we'll see why. But yeah, maybe I would like to find something to share with you guys that kind of shows a little bit more about how the programming works in it, and I'm not sure why I didn't think to record that earlier, but this next one was a world I checked out called the Waffle Home Restaurant, which I feel like is a job simulator, because I found these teenagers or preteens, I guess, pretending or playing at working in this Waffle House, which was absolutely fascinating to me. And if I didn't have maybe some social anxiety around the situation.
So these were, I mean, you're saying these are real people.
These are real people walking around in Horizon World.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys can hear the audio at all. Here,
A little bit. Yeah.
So they're just role playing?
I guess so.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I guess so. He's trying to take my order.
Yeah, that's very good.
That's interesting. So it's a public space, and you just showed up.
Can I?
Would you pay?
That's funny.
I did not want to get put on that list, so I just walked out. I'm kind of struck by the realism of this environment, that there's like a Best Buy and a Home Depot. And it's just a little strange to me that these 12 and 13-year-olds were playing at working at a Waffle House.
Yeah.
And he was willing to take your order. That's kind of amazing.
I know.
That reminds me of a Chipotle did a Roblox like promotion in Roblox, and they give free burritos away if you like take the training, like you're training like to make a burrito or tacos or whatever, some soft tacos, you know, and if you complete it successfully, you can get a free burrito. So that's kind of cool. How kind of reminds me of that actually. Like it's a different engine, obviously with Roblox, but it reminds me of like how they kind of actually there's some like teaching elements to that too, where you know you see people making burritos in Chipotle, and you kind of take the place of the people working there and see how they make their burritos and stuff like that. So kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of that.
This is a meta-built world called Venues, and there are different little venues that it's almost more like a waypoint. You can stop here to transport to other different worlds, and some of them are experiences, some of them are like akin to movie theaters or concert halls. So there's a live concert, I guess, with Carrie Underwood over there. I did see one in here that was like a nature documentary that was narrated by David Attenborough. They had this weird game over here that I had to go check out. And I apologize, that black circle thing that keeps appearing is because I had it on stationary boundary and I kept triggering the pass-through. So that was a mistake. Didn't realize it was doing that. And should have probably had it on room scale when I did this, but this was kind of neat. I thought like this it was almost like a physical challenge to get up there. I think I missed the point of the game though. I'm not quite sure what I was actually supposed to be doing. But then this big ball appeared.
Wow.
I suppose I was maybe supposed to try to make it go somewhere. It wouldn't let me jump over to that other side, so.
Oh, were you supposed to be manipulating the ball through this maze of objects?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. So it seems like, I fell through. Seems like the arrows on one side were moving the ball back and forth, and then the other button dropped it. So you're supposed to kind of like aim and then let the ball drop, and then I guess have it hit on those platforms, and to some particular end, maybe to have it go somewhere specific. I'm not sure. I like nature documentary stuff, so I popped in there. It was glitching out quite a lot, and at this point, so when you see like that black corner edge, that's probably what that's from. And I was trying to mute myself. I think I inadvertently paused the whole experience. And I think, that's another thing to note, about this technology in general. It's Horizon Worlds, I feel like, is a little bit of a brutal reminder that this is still very early in this technology's adoption, right? For how much passion there is around it. It's very clunky, right? It's a very clunky experience. Sometimes I can use my finger, and sometimes I have to use the trigger, and sometimes neither of them work, and and it glitches out quite a lot, and that is the reality of where we're at right now. It takes an incredible amount of processing power to connect and run these types of programs. So I never got the camera to work.
So was this world that you're in here? Is that built? Who built this world? Okay. Huh.
A lot of possibilities, I gotta say, with Horizon Worlds. Like, you can see, like, someone probably that built this world with using those, like, authoring tools that we use in our prototype, like, to do this camera thing. There is quite a bit of, like, I feel there is, like, a lot of, like, depth as far as, like, what you can do with their authoring tools. Like, you have the time and the ability in order to do it all, then I think a lot of these things are definitely, like, you can make that camera thing happen, and all kinds of different things with, like, characters probably, and, like, audio, all kinds of different things like that. So I do feel like there's a lot of depth, even though, like, it is a little bit glitchy. But I remember, like so going back to the Horizon Worlds week after week, still on that little prototype did, there's an update almost every week. So they're definitely working on it and, like, improving a lot of stuff, fixing things. So.
And what about the world that you guys worked on? Did you create it from scratch, or was it like based on another world they had, or did you have to create every asset?
So I'll let Jay talk a little bit about what he started the world from. I do want to note and just piggyback off his last comment on how things kind of changed throughout the process of starting this project. In the very beginning, a lot of the objects were, just the default shapes, and not a lot of pre-built stuff. And then it seemed like it was a little bit slow to start, but after a couple of months, there started, just popping up all these different pre-built assets in the library that's available to anyone creating a world. And I mean buildings and different types of trees and plants and furniture and tools and all sorts of things that, in the beginning there was just maybe one or two, one version of each kind of thing. But I really liked this little wood chopping thing for some reason. It just, I was also trying to see, like, okay, so it's, when it comes in contact, there's a little particle effect, and it's creating a new instance of that object. I thought that was neat. But yeah, there was all sorts of new pre-built assets that you could use added to the library over time. So users were definitely engaged with that. But Jay, maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you the I guess the world that you started with, and and kind of how we adjusted that to work on our project.
Yeah, like the buildings background, like we're so the idea, like we had a mural, like we started out with like a design document in the beginning, like with different people pitching in, like there was more than just Tristan and I. There was like about 6 different people doing the initial design with this thing. So we were all pitching in and like making like we made a mural. It's basically like a mural whiteboard is just like a online collaboration. We all pitched in and we made a 2-dimensional like prototype with some graphics on it. So it kind of gave you us a little bit of an idea of like what the city could kind of look like, different states and so forth. So it kind of like led things a little bit there. And then from there we pulled in like the asset. There's an asset library in Horizon Worlds here. So you can like go in there and pull in some different cool looking buildings that you saw in the background. And that's kind of what like translated from the I guess you could say like the 2-dimensional like version of it in the picture on the mirror whiteboard. And just for some background, like this for the setting, like just, we want to have like a setting, like a general setting when to set up like your environment when you pop into like a learning experience, so that kind of set the whole like the whole initial environment of where you're popping into with just those background buildings. And then from there, like I did have to build like a bunch of other specific stuff though, like in that mirror whiteboard, there's actually like a thermometer that someone had created at one point to kind of show the states, like see there was before and after. And like to the right there, there's like the blue, green, and red thermometer states. Like the idea was to like have this like environment go from like really hot to cool, by performing all your actions. So you saw in that video earlier, the thermometer is like super full and red. And so I had to make that in scratch. It wasn't really that hard though. It just kind of consists of like, in Horizon Worlds, it gives you like a bunch of shapes you can work with, like cylinders and like little rectangular or cubish shapes and stuff like that. So you can make all kinds of different items based on your skill level. Like you group them all together, like that's made up with a sphere and like a cubish shape that's flattened out, and another like half sphere on top of that for the thermometer, the heat index. We call it a heat index indicator, right? So yeah, a lot of stuff. Like we made the buildings, the hills in the background too. Like I think Neil helped out with that as well. And Neil was another person that was building our environment, and we all kind of pitched in. Trista built a lot of things. Trista built a lot of some of the building layouts and trees, right? And then we all kind of pitched in to make this like look as much urbanish a city environment as possible with all those different. So we made some things, but most of the things probably came from like the asset library, just because like building a whole building from scratch would be really. I actually tried that, and it's quite like complex to build a whole numerous different types of buildings in a short amount of time. So yeah, it all kind of came from like it's a little bit of a mixture of everything. Like I did end up building adding a lot of textures, like and flattening, like making things look really polished. Like you can see a grass texture right here, and there's like some dirt textures I added to make it a little bit more realistic than. I think the grass was originally like just a super plain green, but you can add like all kinds of different like textures and budgets you can think to add. I added some like the white. There's actually supposed to be white paint on the top of that building, which has some splotches on it to kind of make it look like paint. Probably the video didn't really capture it perfectly, but just so you know, I thought a lot about like the design and trying to make it look as polished as possible, just so looks nice. So, and for each like little environment, each little scenario, there's like a state change of like initially like when you join this world, that white roof doesn't exist. So you look down, like actually if you start the experience from the very beginning on the top of the first building, you look down at it, it's brown. But then when you actually step up there, it changes to white to kind of our goal there was to, our objective for that, the third little area was to tell them that they're painting the roof white to minimize. There was some text there that said something about the roads and other rooftops are usually dark colored, which adds to the high heat index, a lot of heat, and painting the roof to that other third building was an objective to make it the environment cooler, right? Like to reflect the heat. So that's one of the objectives that we had. So each like little area, there's 3 little like objective areas or challenge areas that you can like enter, and all of them have like different. They all have something going on with like state changes and things like that. So yeah, that was our kind of our goal from the beginning, to have like at least 3 different little areas you can go to and objectives you can complete. And I followed the mural board pretty closely with the text. So yeah, we had to adapt some things. Well, I'm probably going off on a little tangent there, because someone was asking about the environment. So
It all looks great. Do you mind sharing the mural board with us?
Yeah, let me, I'll share that again real quick, and I do want to share this.
Or I meant the link, like if we could have access to it. Because I did see you share it in your screen.
Sure, yeah. It's, I think at some point we were keeping track of a lot of things there. I do notice that it's not completely updated with everything we worked on, but I think it's okay to share that, right, Jay?
yeah, it kind of contains like the basic concepts of what we were brainstorming, and like kind of. The text for the most part does actually like color the mirror whiteboard, but we did kind of polish it out. Like when I was asking for your feedback of like when you
First
actually
thing you need to know about
like
is your menu system. So similar to when you're
reality headset environment, things can look different, obviously. So you kind of like to have to polish your text a bit based on like what you're seeing in a headset, or if you're in like a real world environment, actually walking through some real world space, your text, like the stuff that is giving you instructions can probably change slightly based on that, experience or your point. So we did polish it slightly based on that. Once you're actually in the environment, we polished it a little bit.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring this up for you guys because I don't think I'm going to be able to get it all up and running with the recording going with a little bit of extra setup. So I thought I would just bring up one of these videos. This is a bit older, but it gives you a sense of at least like what is involved building with Horizon Worlds, because it's all in VR. Like you don't build it in Unity and then import it. In fact, it's, from what I understand, very limited to do that. But it's all building really from within the VR experience, which is kind of interesting and seems like it would be very intuitive. And there certainly are things that are intuitive. There are certainly things that are not so intuitive about it. But I think it's kind of going more into like, yep, there we go. Now we're looking at more like moving and manipulating objects and shapes. Mm-hmm. And again, like, because this video is 2 years old, he might not have really had access to a lot of pre-built stuff, but there is quite a lot But if you think of like the older worlds, like they were, you know, built by all of these individual little shapes. Like it's really it's mind-boggling to think of. I do want to show you some of the painting because I think, you know, introducing those different colors and textures is a really neat aspect. I really enjoyed that because there's a lot of flexibility there. You're recognizing that, you know, if you're just using a couple different shapes, there's a lot you can do with just the different materials and finishes that they had there. So you can actually even turn objects into a light source, which is really neat. You use that glow material. You know, this is a tutorial, so he's talking a lot about what those different things do and not showing everything. But that, you know, that shows, you know, kind of what it's like building out some of these objects and you know, with some weird wonky trees right there, but all right, some cartoonish trees. And there certainly is quite a lot to do with working with objects. But I think where it gets really interesting and what was probably the biggest learning curve for us was working with some of the scripting and the coding tool that's built into Horizon Worlds. So here we have different types of gizmos, they're called. And he's kind of moving around a little bit too much, but you can see there's trigger, spawn point, sound recorder, text, script, door, environment, particle effects. And these are, I guess, little, basically instances of a little mini code builder where you set, you know, whatever's to happen with these different types of gizmos. You know, definitely trigger and script were probably the ones we used most in our project. I know we used, maybe there's a couple environment ones that were built in. We've got a couple spawn points there, like where the portal spits you out. That's a new spawn point. The text that popped up on some of those little notifications, and then that little sparkle effect that we saw at the end, you know, was one of those particle effects. So we used most of them, not all of them, I think. And then there's also trail effects, which honestly I don't remember what that does. Jay, do you remember what trail effects does?
It's probably like kind of like photo effect, but block it.
Like to follow something, maybe?
Lane.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot following.
Yeah.
I didn't actually end up using any of that, but
I don't
that's
think
my thought at least.
Yeah. There's these are some of the built-in music options that you have available to you. I think he's going back to materials and stuff. That's super fun to play with. So don't blame him. One thing we did run into quite a lot with Horizon Worlds that I'm curious to know how some of the more complex environments got around was our geometric complexity hitting maximum. That was quite a challenge for us. We had to limit things quite a lot because that capacity, I don't know if he just showed that. Where was that capacity? Was it, yeah, so that geometric complexity there, you see it shows at 68%. And this guy is in a completely blank world. So the limit was pretty low, I felt like. I'm thinking that some of the more complex worlds probably imported 3D objects that had a more complex mesh on them so that it wasn't counting against their poly count that affects this geometric complexity. So once you hit that limit, you can't put any more new objects into your world. That becomes like that's the limit. You got to either get rid of stuff or simplify stuff, or replace something with a simpler object, something with less angles or shapes, so that you're not exceeding that capacity there.
Yeah, probably like the official meta Horizon worlds probably increase it a lot. I'm thinking because they look really big.
Yeah, my guess is some of their built worlds had a much higher capacity. I'm guessing. What was neat though. So Jay, when you started, when we first created that instance, you used a copy of an existing world, right?
Yeah, if anyone's interested in learning more about Horizon Worlds and how to use it, there's actually like some templates you can start out with. Like, for example, the one I found that would help us the most was called a narrative template. And since like we started out with our initial idea of being focused around a narrative for the most part, like a story a little bit, or some, it was kind of text driven, I think, like I would say. So I found like a narrative template in Horizon Worlds that you can, like when you're first building a world, you choose like a template you can choose to start out with, or you can choose a blank slate if you want to. But there was a narrative template that I found that included a lot of examples about like, or around the idea of interacting with objects. So if you walk through like a doorway and there's some guy in there, will say hello to you. He'll play like a little audio file, welcome you to the room, and tell you there's other like little interactive things you can interact with around that room. So some of the things in there, I used some basic concepts of. I didn't really use those, but like there was a nice like little starting point like to start out with. It's kind of like a tutorial like any kind of tool has, I think, to kind of get you on the ground running with like basic concepts. And there is some things like place this cube on this thing to make this text appear or something like that. Like there's different examples in there where play around with, and I'm not sure if it's still available like to start your new world wild with it. If you go into Horizon Worlds right now, I haven't like looked at what's offered in it right now, but it was really good for like a narrative scenario like we kind of built in the end. And I didn't really end up using a lot of those interactions, but I based a lot of a lot of the ideas the initial design document had in them played kind of into that template, what the template had to offer. So, you use it to study. Like I think like all these tools that you build a prototype with, you have to study for a while and think about how you're gonna like make your prototype in the end suit your needs. So it did work out. I think that was like a really cool template to start out with. And I think I actually shared a few different videos with it of that the narrative templates to the team that was working on this. We all kind of pulled some ideas from that as well. So yeah, I mean, all kinds of different options with.
Jay was definitely the super sleuth on this project, finding a lot of tutorials that helped guide, what we were able to do with certain interactions and what we could do, and how to achieve that. Definitely leaned heavily on the tutorials that are out there. There's a lot that are built in. But even more that are available on YouTube to help, kind of master the basics. So I think just the community that's out there around this was a little bit surprising to me how quickly it grew and how much information was available so soon after this became, was released. So you can actually animate some things. I tried to animate the trees to grow, actually, so to increase in scale uh, after they became visible, which I was never able to get that to work. And with more time, I might have been able to figure it out, but that was a pretty big challenge. So eventually, I think we decided to cut our losses and move on, and at least get the start to the prototype finished. So some sacrifices had to be made, but this is definitely, there's a learning curve to this tool. A lot of resources out there to help you learn, but yeah, it definitely helps to have a little bit of some background in object oriented programming, and that's pretty new for me. Well, not new, but I guess I'm still at the basics of C sharp, so um, yeah, it felt like learning a whole new language.
Yeah, I would probably say it's accurate. The way they approach things in the visual scripting environment is somewhat intuitive, but then there's other like little things you got to get used to. There's things called object variables that are attached to each little object you want to interact with. So I won't go down in the weeds with that, obviously, but I think the longer you spend with a tool, that you kind of get more used to it after a while. So initially, I was, I think everyone has a learning curve of what kind of prototyping tool they're working with, and this one's no different. So I think that the longer you spend in there, though, I think it kind of gets more. I was able to kind of be more efficient with this. The more time I spent in it, and the concepts started making more sense. It's every prototyping program probably they have their own little ways you can to make interactive experiences. So I think that's one probably important thing to point out. So it is like it has a learning curve for sure. So but yeah, it started making a lot of sense to me once I was repeating some of the same actions over and over again and building some similar things in there. And yeah, I had a wish list thing too, actually, that kind of leaned on regarding the animations. I think that would have been a cool wish list item, and it's probably possible as well. I had a wish list made up actually of things that really would have helped polish this to make it a really full experience. But I think that in the end, it was more creating a prototype was pretty important to me, a final, kind of a finished prototype, really in three different scenarios that we originally mapped out in our design document in a somewhat completed state. I think we were pretty successful in doing that. And I think that prototypes go a long way around showing off what if you're part of a team, for example, or a company that wants to kind of make a new concept or a new product. Prototypes go a really long way of helping visually describe what you'd like to propose. So I've experienced that before in my work for sure. So yeah, I think we're pretty successful in making a really good prototype based on from a team's perspective.
Yeah, I think especially since we only spent, and you know I know we didn't meet every week, so probably maybe 4 hours a month for, so that's not that much time to devote to a project like this, um, but for learning how to use the tools while building it, I think given that we probably spent about Jay, I know you spent a lot more time in there, but 50 hours or 50 or 60 hours of collaborative time. um, I don't know about you, but most of at least the e-learning projects that I work on take a lot more time than that. and even that amount of time to build a prototype is not too shabby. So it's like anything. The more time you put into it, the more you can learn, the more you can do. And I would say, if you are curious, now's definitely a good time to check it out, because there's a lot of pre-built stuff. There's a lot that can, that's already done for you. That there's a lot of resources to look at and examples to look at of what's possible. I'm gonna actually, now that we're talking about that, we've shown you a little bit about how to build in there. I want to go back to our other video over here, and I'll show you guys kind of where we left off on some of these. So we just let that play. But there were some fun and kind of inventive little scenarios over here, and it's almost
Tristia, you're kind of breaking up a little. The audio.
Oh, that might be my internet
Anyone else
connection.
hearing that? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
staticky.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, it might be my connection. I'm gonna try to close some windows over
It
here.
was doing great till right now.
Yeah, it did, most of it was fine.
Yeah, like our prototype turned out really well. I think that a lot of us kind of worked on it, so we all take some share in the experience. Probably about 5 or 6 people were all part of it at one time, so I feel really good about what we created in Horizon Worlds. I think that I think Horizon Worlds is really good for collaboration, and you can join a virtual session where you're creating two at the same time, like up to 6 different people. So that was kind of a nice pro there. So I think it was really good in that sense, and we finished all our major concepts of kind of making like a little bit more challenging scenario in there as well, like counter, and keeping track of what you're doing and showing your progress. Those are important things to lay out prototype. You want to show your learning progress for additional prototypes. So yeah, and then I was showing only one informational panel at a time to people to kind of guide them. Pretty important. So we good there. And I think one other thing I was thinking of, one other thing on my wish list was like besides the animation of the trees, we were kind of initially thinking about some more narrative concepts of like telling a story, and it does take a little thinking though. If you want to make a story, you have to like think about it a little bit and kind of write that all out. And I think I keep going back to like a example that Trisha showed like a while back called like a VR game called Fisherman's Tale, that like kind of narration tells you like a narrator in the background guides you through a story as you're like interacting with your story. So that's been a really cool thing to add in there, I think, too. Audio is really like a really pro point of like fleshing out like your completed like a prototype or like experience. That really adds a lot. If you tell us a story or narration, well, that can really add a lot. So yeah, that was on our wish list.
What are you gonna do with it? Are you finished? Or are you gonna go to the next? You gonna do something else with it?
I think we're pretty much finished with it. I wasn't really planning on. I mean, you can only spend so much time on a design challenge, I guess. So, I've been part of like game jams and so forth. So you can only. I think that we did really good with what we had. And the
Is
rest
it
can be
open?
like.
Can we? It's not a private site, right? Or is it?
No. Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, you can add like contributors to it. I think you have Horizon World, and you're not in some non-English speaking country, and you can actually download Horizon Worlds and definitely like be added as collaborator on any of the worlds there. So, but remember, you have to be in a English speaking country.
I wonder if you might be able to get around that with a VPN. I mean, I suppose you couldn't use a VPN on your headset, though. Yeah, I don't know about that. I wanted to pause it right there just to show you guys that in the Horizon Workrooms app, they have a little deer on the wall with wearing a headset. I thought was really cute. But this is Workrooms, so this is the partner component to Horizon Worlds, where this is their kind of more corporate geared collaboration app, and you can see there was is changing the layout of the room, and moving from spot to spot. I didn't really connect all the functionality, but you can see there that there's some ability to connect to a remote desktop, to bring your monitors into VR, to with some of the new mixed reality settings on the Quest, you can add your desktop in VR. There are keyboards that work that are recognized by your headset, so you can see the keyboard in VR underneath your fingers, and it's pretty. There's a lot of functionality, and I'd really be curious to know how businesses if there are businesses using it, how they're using it, challenges that they're running into, or benefits that they've experienced that they're not finding from other virtual collaborative apps. So if any of you guys know anyone or have heard anything or read any articles or anything about companies using Workrooms, I'd love to hear about it. So please do share in the Slack channel or in the Slack community or something. But I mean, it's a beautiful app and environment. I'm just not really sure how folks are actually using it.
I don't know. And actually use, like, you can walk up to your own keyboard in your own room. Once you map, like, the keyboard with your headset, you can actually use your own keyboard, physical keyboard in your own room. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't know any people. I don't really hear a lot of people using it. We were, like, let us know, I guess, if you hear anyone else using it. I think it's a cool app, actually, like Trista said.
I do have a hard stop today, so I have to cut it short and bounce. But we'll put up some links to resources and the Horizon World and the recording and everything. So yeah, thank you all again for joining. It was a pleasure to share, and any feedback or anything you guys would like to share in the Slack community, please do. Or that's what it's there for. We all are here to learn from each other. So yeah, if you have any resources around building in VR or using different apps or communities or collaborative apps, feel free to throw some links in there. And the more we know, the stronger we are, right?
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. This was wonderful.
Thanks for all your hard work building out those worlds. That world.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was super fun. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.